Hello, my name's Julie Williams. I'm a registered migration agent with Migration Downunder, and I'm here to talk about visas in general because there's a lot of questions of who can still apply, can we still apply for a visa, and can we enter Australia at the moment during the COVID-19 pandemic. Look, Australia is definitely open for business. Thankfully, we've managed to handle the pandemic quite well, and sadly for those of you offshore, it has got a lot to do with the closure of our borders. And whilst our borders are closed to temporary residents, there's still a lot of others that can still have a visa granted and be able to enter Australia. So let me talk about firstly those that can enter Australia on what type of visa. So basically temporary residents, you cannot. If you are sponsored by an employer and have got a 482, you can enter if you've been given a travel exemption. And a travel exemption will only be given if you are an occupation on the priority migration occupation list or you're working in an area of critical sector. So a critical sector could be classified as agriculture and food agribusiness. The food industry, we talk about the food industry more sort of the production of food production. It could be construction, health, and a certain degree it's IT, more sort of fintech, that style of innovative areas. It's all areas that are going to assist Australia in rebuilding their economy since the pandemic. So there is still the ability for those that are 482 holders to enter as long as they can get a travel exemption to do so as well. And if you're if an employer is sponsoring you in that area and they are lodging that visa, they do it in conjunction with the travel exemption and they come through very quickly. Unfortunately, students still can't enter Australia. There's other temporary residents, working holiday makers, sadly, that are not already in Australia can't enter. And those that can enter, though, are partners of Australian citizens and permanent residents, children under 18 years of age that are children of Australian citizens, permanent residents, and parents sadly cannot unless you've got a permanent resident visa. So parents that have perhaps are offshore that have applied for a permanent visa, they're still processing and granting those visas. So parents, you can still apply, and especially if you're eligible for the permanent pathway, it's probably a good idea to start the process now because it is quite a lengthy process. If you're doing the contributory, it can take at least now 5 years. So whilst the borders are closed, utilise your time in lodging and applying for that visa, and it doesn't stop you from when the borders do open to re-enter on a visitor visa. So whilst parents on visitor visas can't enter, nor can they enter if they've got the holder of an 870 because it is a temporary visa, you can enter on a permanent visa and they are still being processed. Other visas that, so it's very limited with regards to who can enter. Permanent residents can enter. Those that are on a resident return visa, a valid resident return visa, can enter. If your resident return visa has expired and your usual place of residence has always been Australia, then you can also still apply and get a resident return visa. But if you don't meet that general, you haven't been living here for the 2 out of the last 5 years, then it's going to be difficult and you won't be able to do that until possibly when the borders reopen. So there's still a lot of restrictions there. We've got a lot of information on our website, as does the Department of Home Affairs. But look, keep up to date. If you don't subscribe to our social media channels, do so, as we will be continuing to update you as, I guess, everything sort of unfolds as to what's happening around the world. Because whilst Australia is managing the virus, we are aware that there are other parts of the world that are going back into a forced sort of second or third lockdown. So whilst that is still in place, unfortunately our borders will remain closed. One thing before I do go, the good news is that Australians, citizens, permanent residents, Temporary residents are now able to travel to New Zealand from the 18th of April, but then temporary residents still need a visa to be able to do so, travelling to New Zealand. So that bubble is about to open. It's always has been there for some months from New Zealand to Australia, but now there is no need to quarantine, and Australian citizens, permanent residents, temporary residents can now travel, or well, will be able to travel from the 18th of April freely across the shores. Any further information, just keep updated using our social media channels or visit our website.